this is our FOA, Isabela Mono, Eduardo Rentes, and Antonella Valeta. Our FOA is done on the U.S. restoring relations with Cuba.
The primary source that we used was statement by the President on Cuba policy changes.
And the language scope that we tried to focus on was language and power.
Hope you enjoy. Thank you.
Well, I think this is done already. Thank you so much, Cody.
Sure, Obama.
Well, Cody, this is big. The United States restoring relations with Cuba once again. Well, since this is done, I think we should call Randy so he can proofread this.
Yes, I'll come right now. Hi, Randy. We're finished. Can you come?
Hi, Randy.
Hi, are you guys done?
Yes, we're done.
Okay, let's go over this to make sure it's powerful enough. So I say we start with this quote that says, meanwhile, the Cuban exile community in the United States made enormous contributions to our country in politics and business, culture, and sports. Well, I believe this could be a good part of the speech because of how powerful the language is. Since this will make them think that we are not trying to kick them out, instead we're trying to do something for them.
I also believe that this part is effective. Like immigrants before, Cubans helped remake America, even as they felt a painful yearning for the land and families they left behind. All this bound America and Cuba in a unique relationship, at once family and foe. I believe that this excerpt will be very effective because it will convince the people that we are trying to reestablish this relation in a friendly basis.
This topic is already covered. We should look at the fact that we're the only ones who care about the embargo. Let's look at this quote. And though this policy has been rooted in the best of intentions, no other nation joined us is imposing the sanctions, and it has only little effect beyond providing the Cuban government with the rationale for restrictions of its people. It actually makes sense that we keep on doing this if no one follows us what we're doing.
So I think, let me read it. Yeah, this part is very effective since people see that we are updating our policies, and we are not stuck in a problem, but our doors are open to what other countries believe. And if they don't follow, it's for a reason, and we might as well take a different stance.
Look at this line. I think this line is very personal and it will make people reflect on the actual situation. I was born in 1961, just over 2 years after Fidel Castro took power in Cuba. This line will make people realize the amount of time that the embargo has been in place and the lack of results it has given. So by this time, the embargo should have had an exceptional result in Cuba, but the situation is actually worsening by the minute.
Yeah, I think that the fact that you put like the time that I was born makes it personal as well, so that helps the people relate.
Yeah, for example, this one, over the next several decades, the relationship between the countries put out against the backdrop of the Cold War and American steadfast opposition to communism, people are observed that we're not stuck in this in our present policy, and it's not going to give up on communism, that we're trying to try a different method and to stop it.
Yeah, so let's check this next line. Neither the American nor Cuban people are well served by a rigid policy that is rooted in events that took place before most of us were born. You see here, he relates to the public again that you relate, that's very powerful. Consider that for more than 35 years, we'd had relations with China. Like you said, Mr. Obama, it is possible to take a different approach to communism, like we do with other countries, and still, it is more effective than what we have in Cuba in the present day. So,
of course, that's why I stated in this line, when I came into office, I promised to re-examine our Cuba policy. As a start, we lifted restrictions for Cuban Americans to travel and send remittances to their families in Cuba. Lines like these will help people believe that we're doing this sincerely and that we're actually looking for a true change, because we do feel that the embargo is not working.
in this line, I promise This line adds you power because it shows that you actually care what you said when you came into power. Because most presidents say like, I will promise this, and they usually don't accomplish it. So like when you remind the people, I promised and I'm doing this, that will give a lot of power to you. So I think this line will be very successful.
And when I say I'm actually compromising myself
Exactly.
to the people, and I'm basically looking at that one-on-one relationship with the population where I am promising that there will actually be a change.
As we wrote on the speech, after all these 50 years have shown that isolation has not worked, it is time for a new approach. This shows the U.S. is a progressive country and that we're looking for real solutions. I think it's great.
Okay, so let's get back to work. We're done with our recess.
Okay, so I think we should keep on with.
Yeah, let's
the
keep on.
proofreading.
Yeah.
So listen to this part where I talk about Adam Rose's return home and the process. I state, His Holiness Pope Francis issued a personal appeal to me and to Cuba's President Raul Castro, urging us to resolve Alan's case and to address Cuba's interest in the release of these 3 Cuban agents who have been jailed in the United States for over 15 years. So I believe that these lines can actually help a lot our speech because this will not only take things into a political matter but also into a spiritual matter. And if Pope Francis has approved of this transaction, it means that we're in the good eyes of God and also in the good eyes of politics. So this will help us bring in the people who believe in God and not to think that we're just trying to scam the Cubans.
And then I think you hit the emotional bomb where you put, today Alan returned home, reunited with his family at long last. This relates to so many families that have people kidnapped in wars and so many other cases that long for them to return home to their families. So the wording you use, the language, will give you respect and power because it draws people attention and it makes them take you more seriously. How you put it, at long last, it just relates so well with so many families dealing with the same thing in America.
Okay, so this line I thought was a bit risky, but then you utilized a special language to make it more powerful. This man whose sacrifice has been known to only a few provided America with the information that allowed us to arrest a network of Cuban agents that include the men transferred to Cuba today, as well as other spies in the United States. This man is now safely on our shores, and it's good that you explain this to the population, who Alan is and why this release is important to our country. So it also makes it look like you like a person that wants justice for both sides, and saying this will release the Cuban stuff.
Definitely.
I also think I succeeded in adding this line. Having recovered these 2 men who sacrificed for the country, I'm now taking steps to place the interests of the people of both countries at the heart of our policy. This is because I say I am now, so I let the people know that I will be doing this personally. And as well, I mentioned that I care about both countries' interests, so it will not make us seem like selfish, and we're actually trying to help the Cubans figure how they should be going. And this will also make me have power in the Cuban side because they will see that I'm also looking out for them and not just for our people. It's a mutual agreement.
Exactly, and there you go back to like the part where you said, like I promise, you're like compromising yourself, like I am doing this. So I think that the way you put it really helps the speech.
And this speech is all about being sincere, and we have to like extend our hands to the Cuban people, and they should know that we are actually trying to help them.
Yeah, and I think the way you worded it, the way you worded it, makes it sound as what you're trying to do. Now I want to point out this line. It was a Cuban, Carlos Finley, who discovered that mosquitoes carry yellow fever. His work helped Walter Reed fight it. Cuba has sent hundreds of healthcare workers to Africa to fight Ebola. And I believe American and Cuban healthcare workers to work side by side to stop the spread of this disease. I think that this line gives Cuban fame, kind of, because usually America tries to say that America did this, America did that, and it tries to oppress other countries in having some sort of accomplishments. And I think the way you put it, how you say it was a Cuban first, instead of saying Carlos Finlay, no, you say it was a Cuban. That way you're kind of giving accolades to Cuba. And that actually helps you in being a partial person and in trying to strengthen the ties with Cuba. This is very important, since if we join forces, we can do a lot more work than doing it alone. And I think that is very big of you to actually be humble enough to say we need Cuba's help and like give Cuba a sort of praise. Just the way you word it, it's very powerful.
Yeah, you know, we can improve many aspects that are affecting both of us, so it's like a very true benefit for both of us. So working together will create an easier job, and you know, if we in case have problems, we can solve them a lot easier and quicker.
And I think this line is very, very touching, because we can make the Cubans think that they do have potential to do good things. So throughout these years, the embargo, Cubans have been suppressed. They haven't been able to show their true potential. But we, like we did before, we recognize all the things that Cubans have done for our country, like Carlos Finlay, and also all the contributions that have been done, for example, in sports and all that stuff.
For Ebola as well.
And for Ebola, so we can see that it would be an actual benefit for the Cubans to be side by side with the Americans, and the Cubans need to realize this. So in this line, we can tell them that we're friends, we can work together, and we can reach big things. Look at this excerpt right here. We're taking steps to increase travel, commerce, and the flow of information to and from Cuba. This is fundamentally about freedom and openness, and also expresses my belief in power of people-to-people engagement. So I believe this line right here makes people know that this deal is all about the well-being of the population, and that we're negotiating benefits for our people and more liberty for our people. It's all about the people.
Exactly. Yes, this is one of the major points that we need people to engage in order to get full approval. This direct explanation, it'll be easier. It'll be easier for Americans to travel to Cuba, and Americans will be able to use American credit and debit cards on the island. Nobody represents Americans' values better than the American people, and I believe this contract will ultimately do more to empower the Cuban people. This will tell people that we're not trying to use invasive language, but we're laying a proposition on the table for everyone to look and approve.
And I was saying that even if it's a trivial matter like credit cards and debit cards, you're relating to the people because for them it's a big deal. Even like for us, it's like that. And also, remember that this is indeed an international statement that we are about to make, so Cuban benefits will be involved as well. When we say phrases like resources should be able to reach the Cuban people, and increased commerce is good for Americans and for Cubans, the people from Cuba will be appealed to the sincere statement that we are proposing.
And this is very important because we know that the Cuban people will be actually watching us, or me saying the speech, so we need to make sure that they feel that they will be getting something in return. So this will portray confidence, and we will gain their confidence as well as to what we are doing. In this part, to those who oppose the steps I'm announcing today, let me say that I respect your passion and share your commitment to liberty and democracy. These words, I believe, that are powerful in the sense that they will be able to unify those that may oppose the words that I'm saying and the actions that I'm trying to take in this country. Because when I say respect your passions and share your commitment, I think this will cause an effect for them to open up and actually think about the situation, not just be stuck in we don't want this, but they may be open to the possibility that a new approach may be the solution.
Exactly. Why I believe that this line is so powerful is because you're showing that you're not only thinking about those that support you, which is very important because those that do not support you, they don't support you because they don't feel supported by you. I mean, if you don't follow someone else's ideals, it is because you feel that that person does not care about you. But when you're talking to those people, kind of giving them an indirect accusation, because you're like directly telling them to those who oppose, you're kind of like saying, I also think about you and I also take you into consideration in all of those decisions that I make. And he's kind of like saying, I'm sorry if you oppose, but I still respect your passion, which gives so much respect to those people that do oppose him. That's why I think that those words and how you put them will be so powerful for your speech.
These words aim for a unification of all the people, and for the people to actually be open that, look, there can be another solution for this problem.
And the people who are opposing, probably some of them will change sides because of these lines.
Yes.
Okay, so there's this quote, to the Cuban people, America extends a hand of friendship. Some of you have looked to us as a source of hope, and we will continue to shine a light of freedom. So, this speech is already closing. So the way that this line is said is kind, and it's like a reassurance telling the Cubans that the U.S. is ready to openly to be a friend to them. So it's like a closing the death line, just like as I said before, it's kind and generous to the Cubans.
Yeah, this line is a very powerful closing, actually. I mean, it's not the closing of the speech, but it's kind of like saying, remember, we're here for you. And that will add a lot of value to what the Cubans think about this.
Yes, I mean, it's like a source of hope, like a light of freedom. It's like to open the doors for a new possibility, for a new solution. So that phrase, a light of freedom, I think it will be very powerful to their hearts.
Yeah, definitely. And also, now this line. This April, we are prepared to have Cuba join the other nations of the hemisphere at the Summit of the Americas. This is another closing, kind of like saying, okay, we'll do this and now this. The past one, which is the Light of Freedom thing, was more for the more emotional people. Now this is dedicated to the people that are involved in this manner in a more political approach, and a more serious approach, because he's now talking about the Summit of the Americas. Some of Americans don't even know what that is. So here he's also taking into consideration the politicians or the people who care about the politics of America and who take it more seriously. So it's being very inclusive towards Cuba, because as well they are including them now in the Summit of the Americas, and kind of like starting a friendship with them.
And like you said, Cuba for many, many years has been excluded, so the people may or may not have resentment, but if they see that we are actually trying to bring them back into the system, they will know that this is legitimate and that we are actually trying to be a good neighbor and trying to bring them back into the foreign affairs.
Yeah, I agree.
So I also wanted to talk about this quote. Countless thousands of Cubans have come to Miami on planes and makeshift rafts, some with little but the shirt on their back and hope in their hearts. This quote truly talks about what people go through, and say that they will show that we do know what they're going through. Like we're saying this quote to say that we do know what they're going through, and that there's a possibility we really want to help them. So I thought it was really good.
Yeah, it is. And Obama, when you say the speech, you have to really look at the audience to give the speech, to give the lines the power that it truly contains. Because this quote, I mean, it is relating to a 100% to the Cubans that went to Miami, went to Florida, with nothing, just looking for a dream.
Yeah, and I think this is powerful enough to touch people's hearts and minds, and to actually make them reflect on the situation. And I wanted to top it off with the phrase, "Todos somos Americanos."
Yeah.
Because this will actually, I mean, the language, even though I'm saying it in Spanish, but it's a phrase that will make them feel included, and in the end, we are all Americans.
Well, actually, the fact that you say it in Spanish is what will make them feel included. Because in Cuba, they only speak Spanish. I mean, that is their root language. And saying we are all American in Spanish, it just adds like the perfect contrast between being American and Spanish. And it also breaks the stereotype where the U.S. citizens say that, oh yeah, come to America, and they're only talking about the U.S. But when he's saying we're all American, he's kind of including everybody, saying you're also part of America.
Well, I believe this speech is powerful enough, and we can give it to the people, and I think it will serve its purpose.
Yeah, I think we have gone through every line and cut it down to the last root. So, good job.
Thank you very much.
Same to you.
And God bless America.
Yeah, God bless America.